We're on live now. So good evening, everyone, on our special Thursday evening edition of Knowledge is Power. And we're just going to be sitting here and chatting and talking about a lot of little things that we feel like it needs to be discussed and talked about. And I've got on my screen, hey, Terry Roy, he's back. Boy, Terry Roy. Woo, boy, you've been you've been giving them hell all week, Terry. You got you've been
Like I say,
giving them
I'm just
hell
trying to
all week,
live.
Terry. You've been
I'm just
cutting
trying to
up,
live a
boy.
good
On it
life.
this week.
Ah, yeah,
I'm
you've
just
been
trying to
on
live
them
a good
all week.
life.
And I've got
I
my
just want to live a good life. So
I got my
that's
little
all.
cousin Sean C. VILLERY Samuel. He's with us,
Good
attorney
afternoon.
Samuel. He's with us this evening, and I've got a good friend of mine from way back, way back. He's a native of Beaumont, Texas. And he grew up. He was one of my understudies. When Super Team show up in the neighborhood, it was on. Anyway, this is Perry Busby Jr. You know, I always tell me he never can wear his dad's shoes, but he'll wear a little size. Perry Busby Jr. from Broward County. What city you live in Florida?
Broward is Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm in a city that we are now in the process of getting the name of the city changed. I live in a place called Plantation, Florida.
Mhm.
Wow.
And that took a lot to get used to saying that I live in Plantation.
Wow. Plantation,
Florida.
Yeah, yes. Look, I see Gail Castile saying hello to us today. Hey, Sandra Gail. I call her Gail. I don't know what y'all call her. She from Port Arthur. One of them Port Arthur girls. Woo, boy, back in the day. She was. Okay, I'm not even go there today. We just having a good time tonight. We're going to be talking about some social issues and social justice, and we're going to talk about the civil rights movement. Hey guys, ask you this. Let me say hello to also Lily Brown. Let's see where is she? Lillian Brown said hello, Sean, the best attorney.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Humble.
Right.
He's very humble.
One day.
He's
We're working that way.
Yeah, we're working it. Hey, listen, guys. And I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you all something. Did you all see what's the day? It's Thursday. Did you see the Tuesday night podcast on Knowledge is Power? I had the class of 2020 team that was here, and man, they turned it out. They didn't cut no corners. They told it like it was, and told it like it is. And that's the kind of fire that we need, and kind of power and energy that we need going forward. Those kids really talked about the things that we need to know and need to do, and what we need to follow up on. And it was one of the things that really got me is that I did not know, because back in 1973, it was the year I graduated from school. In 1977, I graduated from college. But I went back to school when I was 45 years old, and I still did not know about our Black history. And because I felt like when at that age, I thought maybe there was Black history in the schools. They was
It's been
teaching
a
it. It
while.
was a curriculum. Yeah, but then I found out Tuesday night that it's not even taught. So they've been all the classes before me and after me. You guys never really knew our history, our rich history. And we have a rich history. I know that. We got a rich history. Um, and I when I realized that I've been lied to all those years, the books they was giving us, and we were reading about Columbus, Christopher Columbus discovered America and all that old bullshit. They lied to us. They've been lying to us all this time.
Right.
I used to go to how we get to the elevator and you see that sign say Otis on the top of the elevator. I never knew Otis was a Black man
Yep.
until I was 45 years old. And that's when I said, hey, I'm going to dive into the Black history. I'm going to find out what's going on. I need to know what's our history. So what I'm saying this to say is that we need to find a way that we can get to the right people, so we can see that we can put Black history in the school districts. Not just
Black
this
history,
district,
Black history
not
and
just this school
economics.
district, but all the school districts. They need to know their heritage. They need to know their history. We have a powerful, powerful history. Did you not know that in 1945? Well, you probably know now because I posted. But in 1945, we had a race route right here in Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah. But if I can interject one thing, Tony, one of the things, I mean, if we're gonna really go back, and I'm all for the schools having it as a part of their curriculum, but one of the things I think our community really needs is really Saturday school. The Jews have it for their kids. Muslims have it for their kids, but in our community, we don't take the time to instruct our kids ourselves. We do it at home. We expect the school to do it. Well, how do we expect teachers to teach a subject they don't know? So one of the ways that we can do this, if we really want to impact our communities, we've got to start taking that responsibility, which is why I'm here tonight, because you started it with this knowledge is power. We have got to build on this. You say our schools. Let's talk about our churches during Black History Month. Let's talk about our communities. And if we begin, I mean, the Panthers were, when we look back at the Panthers, the Black Panthers started Saturday schools. They did breakfast. They supplied for their community in terms of groceries, and they looked after their communities. And I think those are some of the things. We are the product of the Black Panthers. I remember seeing them brothers. And once they got older, no one picked that baton up. Like they said in what was it? I'm gonna get you, sucker. They started providing jobs and we gave up. We compromised that for a paycheck. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, but if we look back at the Black community, we're the ones who disbanded it. We're the ones who avoided it. And part of that was just our upbringing, because I know even in my house, and I know some of you all may have heard it too, when you got older, your parents said, go and get out of Beaumont. And they meant well, and I think getting out of Beaumont is a good thing, but we also have to give back. And that's why I'm here. I mean, because you brothers stayed, but I've gone, and so what can I contribute, even though I'm not there?
Wait a minute. I messed up something. Hold on, folks. Hold on.
But we also have to. Let me tone that down. I didn't like the way that sounded.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, but that was my point about if we're going to really talk about education, we also need to talk about what we need to do ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, it's not in the school district's best interest to teach our kids properly. It should be. But they have other agendas. And so if we aren't going to be true to what we're doing, then let's at least start looking internal. I mean, Jesus said, if you're going to go out, Jesus said, start in Judea. He said, start at home.
Yeah. Hey, anybody want to chime in on that? Anyone want to chime in? He about to start preaching. I thought that was his dad to start talking.
Everything he said is true. Everything starts at home. You know, and if you're not teaching at home, you can't expect somebody else to do your job for you, basically. And another thing they don't really have in school is economics. And you have to have the history of both in your home, economics and where you came from. And that's what's missing in school now. I didn't know economics wasn't in school anymore, and that's key. When the kid get out of school, they're not gonna know anything about money, how to manage money, where to put money. They're not gonna know none of that. And you have to get that back in school. You do, because we had it when I was in school, and it helped a lot. So
Yeah,
and you said, and if I may kind of piggyback on that, there was a couple of things that Brother Perry said that kind of resonated with me. The whole concept of being told growing up, whenever you get to a certain age or a certain situation, go ahead and leave here, go on out and spread your wings. But the thing that directly correlated to that thought was what Brother Tony said about the riots in 1943 that were out here. I could only imagine living here during that time, seeing your neighborhood off of Forsyth, where a majority of the black businesses were, not only here, but on Gladys and on Irving, the areas where our economic development grew, as well as where we lived. And to see that literally burn down, I could only imagine the sentiments that a parent could have had for a child to say, hey, you need to get away from here because it's not going to be any different. And while we have made progress, current history, recent history has actually shown we still have a ways to go. So, it's funny how history is very connected to the present, but unless you understand your history, you will not know what's going on has been done before, and you'll be able to build upon that. And in knowing your history, you know what to ask for. For example, we were just talking about not being educated about our history, who we are, the things we've experienced, not only the horrors of our history, but also the beautiful stories throughout our history. Those never been expressed to us in grade school. But it's not because it can't, it can. It just, we have to demand that. We have to ask that to our school board. For example, I have a cousin that is in the Austin area from Beaumont, graduated from Central, went to UT, and now he's over one of the educational programs for his district. And they're actually developing an African-American history class. That tells me it can be done. We just have to know what to ask for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. But we're into 2020, year 2020, and those kids are still studying as if they was in 1959. Mm-hmm. I mean, those textbooks are nothing but lies. Mm-hmm. So I would probably ask if there was a way that those books can be revised so they can learn about their history, because 1 month of or 1 week or 1 month of Black history in February is just not enough. We have so much history, so much history, and because I didn't know until I began to dive in and really study Black history. So I would suggest that if we do not get into that in school, I would ask that that we somehow make our history known, because it's going to change. It's going to change, and I think Perry said something that I like what he says, that it's our fault because we allowed them to give us a little bit. Well, see, we're back in the 50s. We didn't want integration. We wanted equal. We want everything to stay. We wanted equal. What they had, we wanted
equity.
Yeah, right.
Equity. Right.
Right. Right. That's all we wanted. But we ended up being integrated, and that integration caused us to fall back, and we got relaxed, and they rocked us to sleep, because now we can go to the same stores they go to, but we were still being mistreated, and they've always had an advantage over us, and it was not equal. And this is what we want now. We want justice. We want social justice. We want we want it all, and we're not going to stop till we get it. And I like this movement, what's going on, and I like to fight, but also we got to fight. We can't go back. We can't let them rock us back to sleep again. We want it all.
We got to stop.
Well, and this is where history comes in, because we are really debating a lot of the issues that Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois began to debate during Reconstruction. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talk about Reconstruction, but Reconstruction was 12 years.
Right.
And in that 12 years, you had Booker T saying, hold on, I understand we want to progress, but we need to have some skills, and we need to put more into our economics. You had W.E. Du Bois saying, no, we need to learn and we need to be a part. And the truth is, we, you know, in our communities, unfortunate, and maybe it's just one of the remnants of slavery, we end up taking these sides when really it was and both. We needed to have, and that happens today. We still need black electricians, black plumbers.
We do.
And we ended up taking the education route. And I'm a product of that. I went to HBCU. I got a professional degree. I wish I had some other skills. Because when this degree has played out sometime, man, I needed a skill.
I agree.
And so we are back now in a new era. And we're having this misunderstanding. One of the biggest things I say is that, and Sean can relate to this much better, we're in an information age. But most of us still have an industrial age mindset. And by that, I mean, you know, you look at young people, they're more dynamic. Information comes at them different ways in their processing. Some of us old folk, we're just like on that GM plant line. We like things going in the process, but that's not where we are.
Right.
And so how do we rethink some of this stuff now that we're in this information age? And I venture to say that we're talking about education, but this applies to health. This applies to voting. This applies to economic development.
I agree.
And you actually said something. I think you're spot on when we're talking about the younger generations and the way in which they communicate now, the way in which they organize now, the way in which they receive information is totally different than what we've ever experienced, and let alone the world. This is literally a new world. The way in which I go about my job is changing. For those of you that don't know, I'm a lawyer by trade. But you all right, Brother Perry? Sometimes I remember first starting out, that law degree was what was all and good, but a skill would never go wrong.
Right.
But, the Lord has been good to me. I'll say that. but with having the ability to have to communicate with people, that's what I do for a living. When I'm talking to a jury, when I'm talking to a judge, but even with the coming of this pandemic, now we're having to communicate via Zoom, as we are doing here. That's a real live thing. The way in which they receive information on their phone, science has told that this younger generation is processing information faster than ever imagined before. So how can we use this new way in which they're communicating to help further progress the cause of people of color? And those are the type of ways in which I think these protests have demonstrated how these two interfaces are actually crossing. And it's actually being utilized effectively from what we've seen, because there's many brothers and sisters from communities that don't look like us that are now engaged because they're able to see it. Before, it's one thing. I was watching something not long ago, and I think it was something by James Baldwin, in the sense of what does, and I'm gonna paraphrase in a way that is more appropriate. What does a community that does not look like us do once they are confronted with the fact that what they are saying does not exist? It exists. Because once you understand it exists, then you have to do something about it. And that's where we are now. We're past the point of acknowledging we know it. There are problems systematically. That's not a question. That has been studied for over 100 years. It's tied directly to Reconstruction, tied to the Black codes, tied to Jim Crow, tied to housing, tied to education. It's all tied together. But now that we've continued to talk about it, we're at a point where this younger generation is saying, not anymore. This is going to be the world and community we live in, and we want it to be different and reflective of where we want to be.
I agree. Yeah.
Man, Jesus.
Times is changing.
Yep, it is changing. And I listened. I had this. I'm telling you, the class of 2020. You wouldn't believe those kids were so. They was on it. They was on top of things. They knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to, and they are ready to take the baton. Those
I
kids
have
is
8 grandkids, so I know. So I
Yeah, but
know what they thinking is.
yeah,
They're a lot different than what I was
Yeah.
coming up. And especially
yeah,
my oldest granddaughter, she's 17. So
yeah. I have my son Eric, and let me tell you something. I call him Dr. Google because man, you ask him anything, he'll tell you. I said,
yeah,
hey, how you know all that shit? You ain't but
yeah.
17 years old. But, this cat. This cat blew my mind. I mean, I just sit there, every evening I come home. So that's why it keeps me sharp because I have to deal with him every day because
They leaving us behind.
I
So
call him Dr. Google. I mean, you ask him something, he gonna tell it like it is. I mean, he is already researching, already studied, he knows about it. I say, go ahead on, cuz. I can't deal with you. But anyway, crazy thing about it, man, this cat been like this since he was about 8, 9 years old. He always been that way, always. So, but these new kids here today, I'm telling you, if the audience, those are viewing us right now, if you didn't see that show on Tuesday, go back, YouTube it, and on Knowledge is Power. And you can YouTube it, and it would be on those kids. Called the title, the subject topic is going to be the class of 2020. You got to listen to those children. They want something, and they're going to get it. And it's also going to take us to keep pushing them and let them in. They want to express themselves, but they want to get in, and we've got to. That's our next generation. Let's not kick him to the side. Let's bring them in. Just like
they not the next generation. They are this generation.
that's generation.
They are this generation, and what we've got to do is really, as you say, get out the way, but still become those advisors. I am who I am because of folk like Calvin Williams and a couple of guys who they had prominent names, but they weren't too big to share. They weren't too big to sit down and say, "Come here, let me talk to you." And so I aspire to be like those guys and not the guys who I saw sitting in the way and blocking everything that was going on, because we have that too. And we got to address some of this internal bullshit.
That's right.
Because that is keeping us back more. I won't say more than racism, but racism exists because of a lack of leadership. It needs both. I mean, the master always had his go-to guy to make it plausible, to make it passable. And when I look at leadership, it's not just bad leadership. I don't want leadership that I can't count on. Or I don't want leadership that only talks when it's a good time to talk.
Election time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, what Dr. King talked about in times of convenience. That is, standing up in a time of convenience that doesn't show me any leadership. And our kids, guys like Sean, they've seen it. They've been quiet about it, but they know. Sean knows exactly. He's seen it. Because when I was your age, I saw it in Beaumont, and it exists.
And I think you brought up a good time to ask this question. When we're talking about racism, how is that defined? Because I think the way in which we define it is critical. Because if we define it and associate it with it being a person of bad character, that's where we mess up, because that's what turns people off. As soon as you accuse them of being racism, instead of them understanding that their conduct may have illustrated racist things and not necessarily an assault on their character, that now we're shutting down any opportunity to have real constructive conversation. There's a doctor I think her name is I can't remember her first name, but D'Angelo. She's the author of this book called White Fragility. Brilliant book. It's not really meant for us. The way in which I see it is, it's a book written by a white lady intended for a white audience. That's what she wrote it for. Because when we're talking about racism, one thing I think people oftentimes don't understand is you don't have to convince us that it exists. Race is a part of our makeup. When we wake up in the morning, when we go about our day, that's something that we never think that today race won't be a factor in my life. However, people that don't look like us, they literally have the ability to go out into their life, into their day, where they never come across somebody that may not look like them. That's not the luxury we have. So the way in which she defined it of sorts was to the effect that it's not a person, it's a system. And it's not based upon someone having a bad characters or being just a bad person. But when you started looking at it in that broadest sense, it allows for those conversations to happen. So that's why I was simply asking that at this point for us to discuss. What does it mean when we say racism? Because I think some people do not have the same basis. And from what I do, I have to make sure when we're talking, we all have the same understanding of what the definition is. Because if I'm talking about apples, you're talking about oranges, we're never going to be on the same page. So
because racism exists. Racism exists in every facet of life, no matter what it could be economically, it could be in just a lot of ways. It exists a lot.
Hey,
healthcare, all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it is woven deep into our education. I mean, our education is more about being able to assimilate than it is to be about attaining some achievement goal. I mean, for us, and unfortunately for blacks, I mean, we don't intend to do it that way, but they talked about it in the music business. Tony, you remember that, man? If you crossed over, I mean, it was like, man, let me put that aside. I've crossed over, and for us, that shouldn't be the goal.
Right. You're absolutely correct.
I mean, my success is not about how white people like me. I really don't care. I really don't even care how black people like me. My goals are about some personal achievements and did I leave this place better than when I came in? And that's really all I'm trying to do.
Well, here's one other thing that they talked about on Tuesday night is that the disadvantaged. They talked about the two high schools here in Beaumont. And the kids, we're black people. We're overcomers. We always had to overcome things to get stronger. But those kids were telling me the things that they cannot do that is done at the other school, the other high school. And they had a disadvantage because some of the courses they don't even have there. One kid said they wanted to paint the parking lot, and they told him, no, you cannot. They said, the other school paint their parking lot. They said, no, you can't. So it makes me think about Terry when we was in school, high school, we was at a disadvantage. We really was. And I did not know that we were, because I went to both of them in high school, so I don't know if I'm a Panther or Bulldog, but I both. But anyway, but I didn't realize there was a difference in school until my senior year in high school. And, because I worked at the radio station, so I really wasn't my senior year, I really wasn't in school as much because that morning I would attend school and then they'll put me on the bus and take me to Forest Park, which was now Westbrook, and to take a computer class. Now, can you remember taking a computer class? Think about it. In 1973, I had never seen it. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was on the Jetsons.
Yep, I did too.
I didn't. That scared me out to death. But I'm just saying, they had all these types of courses and an advantage that they had, but we still was in that's when I realized that, hey, I'm in a whole new world over here. And when they brought me back to the school at 11:30, I didn't even want to go to school because it wasn't the same. I saw the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. Well, I had that experience. In my 10th grade year, I decided to transfer out of Hebert and go to Forest Park. My dad didn't want me to, but he said, "Okay, I'm gonna let you go, but you're gonna have to stay the whole year, come hell or high water." My year at Forest Park, I think there may have been 50 blacks out of the 2,500 students there. A lot of the kids who were already there had grown up. They're gone to Sally Curtis and Vincent, and so they grew up. But for me, it was a total culture shock.
Yes, it was.
Not in terms of education. I mean, I went there just to see if I could. Yeah, they had Latin and they had a lot of programs they didn't have at Hebert. But what I didn't get was nurturing. And I needed that. You know, I mean, I wasn't afraid of, I went to black schools. Teachers got on your ass in class. So I wasn't, but this was a whole different kind of get on your ass over here.
Yeah, it was totally different, wasn't it? Let me tell you, I guess that's what I learned how to deal with both sides. I can talk to, it gave me another breath of air, and that's, oh, wait a minute, I can groove, I can walk right on through here now. I know how to bounce this way and bounce that way. But
that was the first time I heard Porch Monkey, Beer Chunker, Jungle Bunny. I heard that I was told that to my face. This was a different Beaumont for me.
Yes.
And I couldn't wait to go back to Hebert.
I bet you.
You know what? You said something that resonated when you said nurture. That is something that I think is unique to definitely a Black person's education, is that nurturing. Understanding that while we are here for education, there are things that we deal with that only somebody else that goes through those similar experiences can understand. And that's, for me, why I went to HBCU. I went to Florida A&M. Best times of my life, I must say, first of all.
Oh, you're a rattler. Okay.
I'm a rattler. So when you said where you from, I know exactly what you're talking about. And then I went to Black law school. I went to Thurgood Marshall at Texas Southern. So I've been fortunate enough to have teachers in my life that look like me, that make me want to aspire to be as brilliant as them, and to let them tell me that, yes, you can achieve that. You can be greater than I. That is a type of education we need. So I'm definitely a big proponent when it comes to HBCUs, but I think that's also why we need to continue to push young people into education, back into the grade levels, because the way in which I grew up throughout my education was totally different from how y'all may have grown up from y'all experiences at Hebert. I'm sure y'all saw majority of your teachers that look like y'all. Nowadays, that's not necessarily the case, especially having Black male teachers in the classroom is a unicorn of sorts. So while I do believe in, education is where it starts, in my opinion. Now, do I think you necessarily have to go to college when you come out? No, that's what trade schools are for. So we need to make sure they understand, these young folks, you don't have to get a 4-year degree. But if you get you a 2-year degree, especially in Southeast Texas, you can get a job at one of these plants. You can be all right and be in a position to take care of your family. But it still comes down to education, but in a nurturing place.
Okay, now since you said you said the name Beaumont, and we're about to get into Beaumont now. We're gonna talk about Beaumont. Sean, you're one of the few that went away to school and come back. I went to school and come back and left, stay gone 25 years, and return. And so I was able to go all the way around the country. I was able to experience different demographics around the country, from the East Coast to the West Coast, to the Northeast to the Southwest. So when I returned here in the 2000s, I couldn't believe that it left Southeast Texas was still in place. And when I say it was in place, it never moved. It never grew. It never advanced. It never diverged. It's been the same. It was this way when I left in 83. And when I returned in the 2000, I got a return in 2006, 7. It's still the same. No vision. Again, I'm gonna go back to those kids last night, Tuesday night on the podcast, the class of 2020 from Beaumont United. They said when they leave, they probably won't come back, and I know they won't because there's nothing to offer them. They have no recreation. They have no concerts. They have nothing to entertain them. There's nothing to do. The city industry is only one, and that's the oil and petroleum, the chemical plants. So what will it take for us to have a more diverse city? Bringing different type. What would it take to bring different type of industry here to Beaumont, so we can keep our young people here? We've got one of the best colleges in the country right here in our backyard, and that's Lamar University. We've got one of the best trade schools, which is LIT. Like you said, Sean, that everybody's not college material. If you got a good trade, you're going to earn just as much as a 4-year education in 2 years. Since
not enough people get involved with things in Beaumont. It's kind of like everybody's just at a status quo. Whatever they say, whatever's going to be is going to be. They don't get involved in voting. There's a lot of things that they just don't get involved in to try to make things work, not just for yourself, but for your kids, for your grandkids. It's not enough involvement. And that's why the city is like it is. And that's...
Yeah. I was in Beaumont back in 2018. Went before city council. Sean saw your dad, and one of the things I told the city council, and it wasn't personal, it was just a fact. You guys need young visionary leaders. That inspires. Terry, what you talk about and the issues that you talk, they're needed. But that doesn't inspire people about ditches. It doesn't inspire people about sewage until it's their sewage.
Until it's their problem. Sewage.
Yep.
But what and I told Becky and all them folk that if you're not careful, in 10 years, Beaumont is going to be a stop on the way to somewhere else. Because if it's in the best interest of those plants to expand and bring in executive teams and set up a headquarters there, whether it's the plants, Amazon, or anyone else, they would just as soon set up and create their own city between Beaumont and Anahuac. And bypass Beaumont and his 40 and 50-year-old fights. Because if I'm coming to a city, I don't want to hear about some old fight that I never knew about, and now here I am constrained over some bullshit that y'all can't get together over from 50 years ago, and y'all don't even know why y'all fighting. Y'all just fighting. And if you're not careful, I'm telling you, right around, what is that, 71, where 10 turn, they'll build a city and build a couple of HEBs in the school district and call it some other city, and Beaumont will be flocking there.
Right.
That's what's going to happen.
And that's what probably will happen if we don't get someone with vision and leadership in our city. Hey, I haven't got to that age now, Whew, I'm in the fourth. I done got Terry. We in the fourth quarter now.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, I think some of them do have vision. It's just, you got to have involvement with those visions that they have. It's not enough people get involved with the vision that some of them have.
Right.
A lot of them sitting on the council have vision, but if you don't have anybody involved with you, it's a lonely fight.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. We have this town, this city has all the ingredients. When I say the ingredients, you've got a major interstate that runs right through the city. You got a major river that runs right through the city. You've got one of the best colleges in the South in the nation right here in Beaumont, Texas. You got all the railroad lines that run right on through here.
I'll tell you one fact I never knew. I read, and it's in library in Houston. As far back as I would say maybe 38, everyone expected Beaumont to be the city that Houston is.
Right. Did you not know that? Hey, let me tell you something. Did you not know if it wasn't for Jack Brooks, Interstate 10 would have went through Orange, through Port Arthur, and come by around the backside of us.
Yep.
But he had him to bring the interstate through here, which was supposed to take us off. But it didn't happen. You know why? Because that old money wouldn't let it grow. They
that old money and voting.
That's right.
And elections.
That's right.
Voting. Yeah.
That's right. That is absolutely right, Sean. And it is. And today we do it to ourselves. I was telling some kids. I was telling the group the other night. I ran for office for city council last May. Yeah, last May. And last year, May. And it was one of the most expensive lessons I ever learned at my age. Is that I said, I spent 90% of my own resources to run a campaign. And the lesson I learned is that it takes one of us, not several of us. And all we're doing is dividing votes, splitting the
way they want it.
And that's what they want. And we got to stop that. I was telling them, I said, when I signed up to run, it was only 2 minority blacks in the race. So we had a large count where we got 2 seats. Okay. But by the time the deadline for signing up for that candidate for city council, we ended up with 5 of us. How you can't win no race with no 5 of us? We don't vote as it is.
Not in a city that only 10% people vote.
Right, and that's what we got to get. We got to get.
That's what you got to work on.
Right. So what I'm saying is that and then I said, well, now look at downtown. Have you ever been to a city council meeting? I said you got to go to city. You can't raise hell about things that you want and you don't go downtown. You don't go to the city meeting to find out what's going on or what they're doing or what they're talking about. You've got to go. If you don't go, get it online. But you look at the councilmen and the mayor, the city manager, does it reflect us? And we're 52% majority. Does it reflect the black community?
Because we're a city of settlers. We settle too much.
It's damn time to stop settling. It's time out.
You got to give people a reason not to settle. Some people need a reason not to settle. They don't know how to comprehend that on their own. So
this is why
I heard a guy once say, we all like to say that we're from Mandingo and we're from these great African tribes, when really those fearless leaders got killed. in the diaspora. They either jumped off, they either got killed. We are the descendants of the people who say, you know what, man, I'm gonna hold on to this chain and see where we're going before I really get upset. And we've been holding on to chains and waiting until we get to a better place. And we are those descendants, like it or not. Because we saw what happened to leaders, and we still see it. And you can't tell me that doesn't have a psychological effect. Just as soon as you get ready to stand up, somebody said, well, you heard what happened to Malcolm. You heard what happened to Mega. Man, let me go home.
I never think about that when I say what I want to say. I never think that way because I'm just going to always say what I have to say. And it's not personal. It's just what it is.
Terry, I have to say the same. I'm going to tell it like it is. I don't cut no corners. I don't have no filter. I'm going to tell it like it is. And if you like me or not, I don't care. The last time I eat a bowl of water with a fork. If I'm going to worry about how you going to think about me. Shit, I'm telling you. but you know, I'm real. And regardless where I live or where I am or whatever, I'm real. And I'm going to be real with you. Either you like me or you don't. So my objective today, and the day after I lost the election on last year, one thing I did say to everybody, I said, I am going to be one of the biggest advocates in this city. I'm going to make sure that I stand and I'm going to empower those who are ready to get in and go to fight. I'm going to be that one that's going to make sure that we put people in the right position and put them in position. And that's what I want for before I leave this earth. I'm going to start preaching. Before I leave this earth. Well, speaking of preachers, let me cut through here so I can let you guys know. I'm going to come back to that. This Sunday, I want everybody to please tune in this Sunday at 7:30 here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live on Knowledge is Power. I'm going to have the most powerful pastor in town, Dr. Reverend Pastor Delbert Mack. We're going to be here with us, and Aaron Reynolds is going to be here from Borden Chapel, and Dr. Reverend Terrence Malone out of the historical St. John Baptist Church out of Houston, who is a homegrown from right here in Beaumont. He's going to be with us as well on Sunday. Please, y'all join in and share our videos, our podcasts. So these are some gentlemen. Let me just say this, and we're going to get back to what I was talking about. Did y'all put a pin in what I was talking about? Because I need to make sure I finish talking about that. You know, my brains go off sometimes. I can't remember what I was talking about. But the civil rights started in the church. That's where we met at. And the preachers was the leaders then. That's where they were the leaders then. And it all started in the church. And that's where we met. They didn't want us to be nowhere because we had to go to church. And they said, well, we'll go to that church. But that's where we met. And that's how we planted things. Doing back in the day of the civil rights. And man, you got to remember back in the days of the slaves, that's what they meant too. You know, we couldn't go nowhere else, but we can go to church. But I'm saying is that, but I want you guys to watch that show Sunday, everybody. Please join us Sunday at 7:30 right here on the Facebook Live and YouTube on Knowledge is Power Live. Podcast Live. Now, don't go to my profile page on Facebook because you have to wear seatbelts on that one. Don't just go to my Knowledge is Power page on Facebook, and you will see us on Sunday as well. Now, back to what I was talking about when we was talking about preachers. But now, see, I told y'all to put a pin in what I was talking about. I said, I already know what I was talking about. But
don't look at me and Terry.
Don't let me what I was talking about because I get going and get to talking. But you know.
But what you did say, I think, which ties everything back together, is how important the Black churches were during those particular aspects of our history.
Right.
Because what we didn't have were our own safe spaces where we could meet. What were some of the places that we did own? Our churches. Right. So that goes back to the economics. It goes back to the politics. We have to make sure we own our own spaces so that when we do meet, we can have these type of discussions about true progressive things. Because as long as we rely upon others to make opportunities for ourselves, we're going to continue to have to wait for opportunities instead of creating them. So,
right.
And I really do believe that we can get there, and we got to leave our egos at the door.
Without a doubt.
Okay, leave our egos at the door. Just come in humble, and stick together for one. We playing in their hands. We play right in their hands. We've been playing their hands for the last 100 years. We've got to stick together,
especially out here in Beaumont.
Yeah, especially here. And I always talk about unity. Unity is what we need. We need not just in Beaumont. We need unity together all the way. So I'm not going to stop this until we win.
Right.
Like Terry, I like what you do every morning. You make sure you on top of you making it known. You making it known, and I appreciate it to stand and stand on top of it. And
I got to make sure I protect. What I got to leave for my family, my house. That's for my kids, and that's for my grandkids. That's why I do what I do. It's not really for me; it's for them, because I got to make sure I leave them something that's valuable.
Yes.
That's why I do what I do. It has nothing to do with me.
Well,
it's them.
So. I began doing this about 3 months. I've been doing it for 3 months straight. The only time I won't do it is on a holiday, but I feel like doing it because I want to make a change and put our voice in. I have phone calls every day of text. I can be going down the street driving. I think about something. I say, oh, wait a minute. Let me call such a person. Let me get them on here. So they can express themselves. I think he's got a lot to talk about, or she has a lot to talk about. So let's and we got to stick together and do things together. We need to support our business. And speaking of supporting our business, on Tuesday, July the 7th, here I go. I'm advertised again. On Tuesday.
I like them segways.
Yeah. I forgot about this. I forgot about July the 7th. I'm having a Black on Black business podcast. I mean, I'm getting all the young business owners on here next Tuesday the 7th, and so they can promote themselves. So we'll know who we need to do business with. I've got a young lady out of Port Arthur that has a dancing school that's going to open up on the 1st of August. We need to support her. We got a lot of young talent, young ladies, young guys that wants to dance, but we need to support them. We need to support their clothing stores. We need to support their beauty salons. We need to support their beauty supply house. We need to support our business owner, our restaurants, our Black. That's what we did. We didn't have that. In my day, it would tell you you're not too far behind me, but back in the day before integration, that's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we had. Black business owners. I thought that was the only world that was.
Right.
So, and they survived. They raised their families. The corner grocery store. We don't even have a grocery store we have one Black-owned grocery store in Beaumont, Texas. Corner store. That's right there on Pine Street. I got to get that young lady on this show too, and so that we can stop in and support her as well. But what do we have? What do we have now? Think about it. We don't have a grocery store in our areas. We don't have a shoe parlor in our area. We don't have a game room for the kids in our area. We don't have a skating ring in our area. We don't have a corner store. You're not gonna own no gas station because those other folks got those, and we don't own no liquor store. And where we put all our support in, our business in, right? And when we give them that money, you know what they do with it? Take it on back to their house on the other side of town. So the $20 bill don't turn but don't last in our area 6 hours.
It's like that because we settle. We settle. Everybody just settles for what
We don't
they
have
for the crumbs that they give you.
we don't have recreation. We have, we don't have anything. So that's why I like to have those on Black-owned business. I'm gonna have a list of Black-owned business and a list of them of those who cannot make the show on next Tuesday. So remember, Blackout Tuesday 2020. We're gonna support our Black business. Do not spend your money nowhere else but on Black business. That's on Tuesday, July 7th. Now, let's go back. I want to talk a little bit about the social justice here. Terry, did we get you about your DD6? Did they fix your well? I mean, your ditch. Did you get to
No,
that?
they in for a little bit more trouble than what they think they are, because a lot of people don't know that a lot of the drainage ditches in Beaumont. You know what grading is when you have to grade a ditch up to a certain level. A lot of people flooded because those ditches weren't graded. They haven't been graded in 10, 12 years. And when they were dug for a specific amount of water. Because the ditch next to mine, it's only designed to hold a certain cubic amount of feet of water. And it's well above what it's supposed to be. So, they think that I don't know that. But, I read. I read everything. I read every day. And if that ditch is supposed to be 5 foot and it's 2 foot, then you owe me for the damage that happened to my house when Harvey came through.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people live next to those ditches, but they don't grade those ditches. I've been here 11 years, and I have never seen them once do that. Yeah. And you wonder why you flood.
Stay on it, Terry. I know you're gonna stay on them, Terry.
I am. Yeah, and that's the fight, and it shouldn't be a fight. It should be something that's taken care of. And I'm not the type of person that settles. I've never settled for nothing. So.
Sean, not to cut you off, Sean, because I want to push our time on. What do you think that you feel like you can do, or what are your thoughts about what you can do for the city of Beaumont and our community? I mean, just more. How can we advance? How can we? You're a young attorney and you're smart, even though it's in your DNA. Because you're kin to me, but
you're right. You're right about that.
But your dad is on the city council. Been on the city council for 34 years, and actually, people would think, well, why he could. You've got to know the job, period. The definition of a city council. And it takes a city councilman governs the business. It governs the city. They're not the dish diggers. They don't put lights in the light poles. They don't fight your battles at your job. They are there to govern the city.
Right.
And the monies. And it's going to take more support for our minorities on the council to be able to make changes. And there never has been a majority of the minority on council. So, and I always say all the time, you need 4 to make a decision. So when you got a division inside the city hall, we're never going to grow. And that's tension, that's stress, that's in-house bickering, because it's too many eyes in there instead of food. And it's gonna take some career changes to make a change here in Beaumont, and that's going to be our duties. And I know that you are a energetic young man, and I'm looking. I actually admire you because I saw you growing up when I first come back here to Beaumont and saw you come through the ranks and saw what you've done. And I always say this all the time, that you're smarter than your daddy.
Thank you. Somebody need to tell him. And better looking.
I went to school with your daddy, boy. Your daddy's smart too, but you're much smarter than your dad. And I say that about my son. My son, I thought I was brilliant. But my son is awesome, man. He's going to be on it. But what I'm saying is, nothing to get off the subject, but I'm looking for some drum majors, and you are one of the drum majors I really respect, and I think that you're going to do wonders if we can keep you here.
Yes, sir.
And I guess we didn't have enough time to go unfold on a lot of things that I really want to talk about. And also, Mr. Busby, I would like to invite you back on our first. We do this every first Thursday of each month.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would like to invite you back, and Sean also as well, so we can have these open discussions. It's like a roundtable discussion. We're talking about in general a lot of things that's going on in Beaumont or in our area or in our lives.
Right.
And one of the things that I do have coming to knowledge is power. I have 3 guests that's going to come. I'm just trying to set up the date because I've had all my dates are just about booked until late September. But I have 3 survivors from the COVID-19 coronavirus that's going to come on. That folks that was in the hospital with a ventilator in them.
Wow.
And they survived. And people, y'all think, hey, they think this is something to play with. This virus is serious.
A lot of those people
it takes the older ones, but now it's taking the younger ones too now.
Yeah.
A lot of people
in Florida.
A lot of them are on hospice right now.
Yeah.
What?
A lot of them are going on hospice.
Hush, boy, hush.
Yeah.
I work at hospice.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on hospice.
Yeah.
And this is touching young and old, because in Florida, they had a report today that an 11-year-old boy died from COVID-19. So we can't assume these young folks are going to be all right. We all have to take this serious, especially in our community.
A lot of prisoners too.
What?
In Beaumont, a lot. Yeah. I can't go into detail about a lot.
Yeah, I know you can't.
Because
but I had a friend of mine call me, and he was telling me that while he was in the hospital, as he was, he got off the ventilator, he still had to stay there because he was still borderline. And he happened to be talking to the nurse, and the nurse was telling him, she said, this is the worst that she's ever experienced. She's been a nurse for almost 43 years. That people was there sick, and their wives and their spouses couldn't even come see them.
Yeah. We're running out of equipment for them.
Families
that they need once they go home.
That's bad when you're sick. That's bad when you're sick.
Right.
You can't do nothing. You lay in that bed, and nobody can come see you. You can't see nobody.
Oxygen machines and all of that. Oxygen machine at a shortage.
Yeah. So, that's why I wear 2 masks. Mask here, mask there. I'm masked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, man. And if I can just add this, I lost my mother as a result of COVID-19.
Oh, okay. Sure did.
Yeah. And I appreciate everything you're doing, Tony, in terms of sharing this message. And I know we're talking about COVID, but I just want to put this back to where we really need to be thinking. Because the next 145 days, we got some decisions to make as a country. And why I am mourning, man, I got to keep my eyes on this. And you said something, and I want to go back to it, because you said you learned a lesson when you ran. And I write a weekly column called Technically Speaking for African American newspaper down here called the West Side Gazette. And each week I talk about voting from a technology standpoint. Because technology runs our voting. Don't get it twisted. And so one of the things that I really want to come back, but I just want to put this seed out here. It's not enough to tell people to vote.
Exactly.
Voting is what we do, but elections are won after the polls are closed.
Go ahead.
That's when elections happen.
We got time. Go ahead.
That's when elections happen. And what we have seen, I'm a data analyst. I've been a programmer, data analyst for 30 years. And not to brag or do anything else, but I had a friend tell me, Perry, you the only Negro I know who has worked for IBM, NASA, and Compaq in your first three jobs. I do data analysts for major corporations, and I've done it for the public sector as well. That's how I ended up here in Florida. I was at the Department of Health in Tallahassee. Helped Florida get certified for Obamacare on their data. We have some serious problems around voting. And we know about voting suppression, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. A few weeks ago, I found out that our supervisor of election, they can't even see the voter database. And so, we're talking about this new age and how everybody uses Google. That's a plus and a minus. Googling is not research. Googling is finding answers and going on about your business.
Yeah.
Ask Sean. Sean, you can't Google your way through a case, right?
Not gonna work.
It doesn't work. And so for so long, we've been telling people to vote. And I want to put voting in this concept for us. Voting is numbers, and numbers come from data. Now, we live in this age, and we've said data is the new currency, right? Knowledge is power. You got power, you got money, you in control. Well, data is that power. But we don't treat data like money. Let me put it to you in this way. Voting is like us bringing all our cash to the bank in a wheelbarrow. We didn't count how many bills we had. We don't know how many 20s. We don't even know the sum. We dump it in this teller, and we ask the bank, who we know is shiesty from time to time. We ask them to tell us how much money we got. And that is how we do voting. Everybody go votes. Most of us go back home. If you're really connected, then you want to go to the candidate watch party or the little victory party, and everybody goes to wait for a number. They have undermined our counts in voting. I want to bring a guy here to you, a guy from Shelby County, Tennessee, a brother. This brother found out in a local election because he was doing some consulting for some clients. Most people don't know. At the end of the election, they post a poll tape, or they are supposed to. The poll tape is from each tabulator that's at the precinct. It tells you how many people voted, who they voted for. It gives you all this data. And by law, they're supposed to post it. Nobody ever goes back to take a look. So what we did here in Broward, got a team of people, 25 of us, and we just spread out after the election. And we started taking video captures of all this poll tape. Because what happened in Memphis a few years ago, during that public election, a brother had a couple of clients. He went to take a picture of the poll tapes. once the results came out and were finalized, he found that in the top 4 predominantly black precincts, the votes had been undercounted by 30 to 40%.
Wow.
The tape showed 600. The vote said it was 393, or it was just votes gone, vanished. Had he not had the video proof to take it back to say, hey, what happened between these two? They found it in the top 4 precincts. And what we've got to do, and again, what I did here in Broward, we have found issue after issue when it comes to voting machines.
Mm-hmm.
And our people, all we know is vote, but we don't know the laws. We're not a part of the canvassing boards. We're not a part of all of this stuff that goes on after voting. And I'm not saying this as though it's just Republicans, because again, you know, racism needs some folk to be compliant. It helps with establishment Democrats as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's news now that Amy McGrath in Tennessee really, in some cases, got a whole lot of help and lost to that young guy, Booker.
Mm-hmm.
He came along at the end, but the DNC, again, it's not all, you know, everything that Republicans say about Democrats are not all untrue. It's a part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we, as African Americans, the reason why they do it to our votes is because we don't supervise our votes. And we, as I tell people, we can tell people to vote and they can come to the polls by the thousands. But if they're counting us by the hundreds, we're not going to win. And they're slicing and dicing it in ways that we not even paying attention.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'm pushing forward with a few other people I've met in this is that we have got to start taking responsibility after the polls close.
Mm-hmm.
Because if nothing else, if they know we watching, that at least cuts down on the possibility. Not saying it's not, you're going to solve it, but every one of these incidents that people have come across happened because people got involved after voting and started looking and asking questions. And so we, you know, I'm saying, hey, look, guys, if you guys want to do it in Beaumont, I'll come down and begin to help y'all do it like we did it here. All you need is a few people to go to these precincts, because we're dealing with an administration. People keep saying, well, what if Trump won't leave? No, my thing is, what if Trump cheats and wins? Who's gonna call him on the cheat? We just got through 3 years of calling them on the cheat, and we saw where that got us.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump is a one-trick pony. Believe he's doing the same thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is where we at. And I know it kind of sounds far-fetched, but I don't know if you know Greg Palast. Greg Palast is an investigative journalist. He has gotten involved with Stacey Abrams in the fight in Georgia, and what they found out in terms of what happened in elections. One of the things I know they're doing now is you got young people that you're registering, and no one is taking what Stacey Abrams did was, when they got ready to register in 2018, they made a copy of every voter registration card they did. So when they got ready to check voter registration and they saw people who were missing, that's how they were able to do it. Most of these groups aren't. And so we've got to start educating on how to be strategic in this process and not just being a part of this process.
Exactly.
So I mean, so you know, yeah, we see a young guy like Sean and they want to get in. Man, if we not paying attention to the vote, Sean will be learning an expensive lesson like you did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what you're talking about isn't far-fetched because the history here tells us that. I can tell you within the past 10 years, the voting machines that we had, there has been things brought to the knowledge of many that you would pick candidate A, and when it shows you the summary, it shows candidate B was selected. And you go back and change it again, and it still flips it. So again, that technology, that data, that is where the reality really happens. That's where they say everything's really made. So you're exactly right, exactly on point. At the same time, as we are working on that, we still have to encourage this younger generation to do what my parents or what we've been taught, because we know, yes, we have to vote. But until we get the younger generation to do that, you know, it does us no good to fix or try to watch the problem if they're still not going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, because here's where I'm at. A guy asked me, well, can't we just overwhelm the system? And it's like Clarence Avant in The Black Godfather. He says all about numbers. Mm-hmm. In 2016, most people will tell you, well, the black participation rate went down. 16 million black folk voted in 2016. And we know this with all the suppression went on and everything else. So a guy says, well, how, maybe we just need to overwhelm the system. I was like, well, hold on. I don't know how long it's going to take to overwhelm the system, because by the time Twitter and Facebook get through discouraging some folk from voting, by the time the election rolls wipe out some unknown, some person who wasn't paying attention to their vote ID, and they go up and they find out, no, you're not even on the voting roll, and they don't know what to do. By the time folk get through fighting and trying to find out what precinct do I, how many folk you think gonna make it through? And the worst part about it is we don't even count our people. Again, I'm going back to the money. You wouldn't take a wheelbarrow to the bank without counting money. And we just asking folk, go to the poll, go to the poll. That's money.
Yeah.
That ain't a vote, that's money. And we better start reconciling and auditing and doing everything related to finances. Because that's what that vote is. That vote is money. And if you don't apply financial principles to it, you're going to be stuck with some hijacked 20s.
It was always hard for me to believe that only 10% of the people in Beaumont voted. I never did believe that, and I still don't believe that.
Well, that's by design too, because here's the other thing. They deliberately put it in data shows that when a city holds their local elections in an off year, participation is going to always be down. You look at Houston, at best, Houston may get 25%.
Yeah.
And that's by design to keep it low, because if it were related to, people say, well, now it's too much to vote. But that's when you get all the people.
Right.
So if you're doing it through a primary or whatever else, and so that's what happened with local elections. But there are some cities who changed that just because they needed greater participation. It doesn't help when your city has been run by 10% of the people. I don't care if that 10% is white or 10% is black.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the past, I mean, you look in the black neighborhoods, the vote is still 10% of that community, maybe less.
Yeah.
So we can't have that group, and unfortunately, that is the way elections are run. They are personality driven now. So they put candidates out there, and the candidate, hey, you better make them feel good to come to the poll. Well, we need to change the paradigm on voting. Because if candidates know everyone is voting, then their dialogue is different.
Mm-hmm. You have to be accountable.
But But if their dialogue is all about getting my people out, man, hey, I'm going with my brothers at the club and everybody on my swing out team, everybody I play dominoes with. That's my crew. And everybody else be damned. And so we've got to become, like you say, we got to start putting our horses in the race.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't know how you can feel good if you win and you only won with 10% of the people voting. There's no way you could feel good about that.
That's why you get the leadership you got.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how they could feel good about that. There's no way you can.
Well, we do have the numbers.
We got the numbers.
We got the numbers. And it's something that we just got to. But guys, thanks so much. I enjoyed you guys. You left me in open there. But let's meet again. We'll talk again on first Thursday of August, and we'll just. Sean, I would like you to come back. Would you come back?
I will. It was a pleasure. Thank y'all for allowing this young fella to get some of this wisdom.
Yeah, man.
I want to hear more of you, man. I want to hear a lot of good things to say.
Yeah.
Let him talk for about 5 more minutes, Tony. Let him talk for about 5 more minutes. I like it.
Yeah, I love it, man. And just getting the word out and getting the word out. This is our platform. This is our voice. And I always say that all the time. This is our voice. We've got to put it out there, and because I always say the newspaper's not going to give us no time. The television, the local stations, television stations not going to give us the time. Mm-hmm. So now we got the time. We got all this time,
And with this said, Tony, I will say 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, but I do want to share this directly what you were just talking about. It made me want to say something earlier, but the information that Brother Perry was passing on was too important. But what you're doing is critical for whatever we're talking about. If we don't have our own ways to spread our messages, none of what we're talking about will ever be heard, will never be implemented, and it will all be for naught. We're at a moment where it appears that we are trying to take back our image, the image that we see of ourselves on TV. That is a powerful thing. There's a reason that the way in which we traditionally view the creator that created us wasn't reflective of us. Imagery. Mm-hmm. A lot of people understand the power of symbol. Everybody might not be able to read and write, but everybody understand a picture when they see it. Yes. Everybody might not be able to understand a story that's written, but when they have that oral dialogue with somebody, that message can connect and resonate. So with what you're doing, I want to say thank you, and that's important for what we're trying to do in our community.
Thank you. You're welcome. And again, guys, you are invited, and those who are viewing, you are invited. Hey, you got something you want to get out there, you comment me or inbox me or reach out to me. Let's email me. Let's get it out there. This is our power. This is what we have for our community, so that we can relate. We can communicate with others in our community. We can find out what we're doing. We can empower you. We can educate you. It's so much we can do with this. This is our tool. So again, I enjoyed doing it. I don't know, Sean. I don't think you was born yet, but did you not know? Did you not know? In the when I was a teenager, when I was about 12, 13 years old, did you not know I was in radio?
I didn't.
I sure did. I was. What was my name there, Perry?
Super T.
I had a nighttime show from 7 to 11. Yeah, hey. Every night it was a party. I had
that's the slow jams.
I had a promo that I play every night, and she comes on about 10 o'clock, and she say, "I go to bed with nothing on but Super T."
Yeah.
You were ahead of your time, man.
Man, look here. And man, I was a teenager. I was a kid.
Yeah.
I didn't even have driver's license. And I was a designated driver back there with them older guys like Bob Brown and Cal Weaver and Willie Knight and them. I was the designated driver. They was grown men, old grown men with children my age. And I'm there hanging out with them. But I learned. Let me tell you something. That was another lesson I learned from the older generation. I grew up pretty fast. I had to, but I enjoyed and I learned. I think about Nesby and Brown and Dr. Reverend Daniels and Perry Busby Sr. I remember these pioneers in Beaumont, Victor Blanc. These are the people who I grew up around. And I had to grow up with these people like Sonny Perkins and Gene Perkins. I grew up with
Reverend
these guys.
McCarty in the South End.
Right. I grew up with those people. I hung with those people like Elmo Willard and Brother John, and I hung out there. You know, I was the designated driver. I was the young one that was with them, and they was in the civil rights movement. They was the pillar of the civil rights movement. So I had to grow up real fast. And by the time I was 15, hell, I thought I was 30 years old, you know. But I learned, and this is why I have to give back to you, Sean, and you and AJ and Michael Cooper and all you guys. This is why I'm still here to give back to you guys, to groom you and get you ready. You know, I told y'all earlier, last year election was the best expensive learning lesson I've ever had. It made me understand a lot of things. It made me understand about people too, because politics, people get dirty. They change. It's a dirty. They're ugly. You know, and that taught me. I said, oh, I got your number, okay, and I find out who's in the mix and all that kind of shit. You know. It's just that it was a lesson learned, but again, I'm in it with both feet in. We've got to get Stevens, Venus Stevenson back in office. In November, we've got to get Desatel back in office. They had now left off, but we're gonna keep them in that office. We got to get out and vote. And we got to get these young kids. Like I said, that group of 2020, we got to get some more like them kids, and we got to get out there and vote. We got to get out there. We do. Get out there and vote. And also, we got to remember 2020 census. That has a lot to do with what we can do in Southeast Texas.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, we can get that's nothing but money. Every time you see oh boy, that's $1,600 per person. Not just for that. It's just like if we have a hurricane. If we don't have the numbers, we don't get those census out and do. They cut us out of our funds. Right. You can't get your house repaired. You can't get your sewer done. You can't anything that can happen. And then we need to get the House in the state of House so we can draw that line. The 2020 census has a lot to do with the line drawing of representatives in our area. We don't have a representative. We got a rep. Weber. Is it Weber? Where Weber live? Woodland somewhere? They don't know nothing about us. They don't know nothing about us. He can't tell you what a parish is, or the South End, or Tripe City. But this is why we need our own representative. We need to get these people out and knock on doors, and I don't care if you knock on the doghouse. Let's get these people registered to vote and also register for the 2020 census. All right, guys. I know I've been going, and I got 2 more minutes. Sean, anyone that want to close us out? Have anything? I mean, I appreciate you too, man. I enjoy you, and I enjoy you, Perry Busby and Terry Roy. Stay on them,
man.
Stay on them. And we're gonna do this. But again, guys, I love it. I enjoy you guys, and let's make sure that the viewers share our page, share our video, our podcast, and like it, and just let everybody know what we're doing. And we're gonna continue to do this. This the beginning of the fight. We're finna fight.
I appreciate the knowledge that y'all two gave.
Yeah.
And we're not
man, it's always good to be around. It's always good to be around some Beaumont folk, even virtually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, and we're gonna have to talk about Tallahassee, man.
We are. Tallahassee got many stores out there. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I also like to thank some of the viewers that come in and like let's get Miss Linus Thompson and Lily. Excuse me. I almost lost my voice there. Lillian Brown and Stacy Lewis Jr. and who else here? Kim Marie. Hey, Kim. Let's see here. Let me go up this line here. Mikey Moe. Let's see who we have here. Miss D. Mac Holden. She's a Cowboy fan. Shit. But anyway.
Start them Cowboys.
I forgot you're a foul Cowboy fan. You ain't worth a dime, boy. But anyway, I know it's gonna be your year though. It's your year.
Yeah, like last year.
There we go. And Wilson has stopped in. Oh, we got you. Hey, Terry, that's your favorite bar. Stopped in on the comment box. Your city award too, Mr. Mike Guest. He stopped in on this to see.
Yeah, I see.
Hey, we got your ass for.
Yeah, and then he want to tell us something we already know.
We already know. Yep. Yeah.
That's my boy. He's something else.
That's mighty white of him.
Yeah. Ice cream black. Thank you, Lord. And Bernie Bernard, hey, cuz. So we've got quite a few people that has joined us tonight that made comments like Janice Richardson Jones and Maxine Black and Gwen Scott Dickard and let's see, we have quite a few more. But anyway, thank you guys for visiting and watching. And please join us Sundays and Tuesdays right here on Facebook and YouTube Live on Knowledge is Power. Join us Sunday at 7:30 with Dr. Reverend Pastor Deborah Mack from the Cathedral Faith Baptist Church here in Beaumont is going to be joining us. That's my pastor. So I'm gonna be still. I'm gonna be still, Perry. When you talk, I'm gonna be still. Man. I'm gonna be still. I can't do anything I don't need to be saying now.
Hey, Tony. One more thing I need to say.
What's that?
It's like I want everybody that lives around these drainage ditches to check and make sure that they're graded right, because it could be a reason why they flooded.
That's it.
Yeah. It's a very strong possibility. It's a very strong possibility.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, we got to get that straight. I don't know how you're gonna get it straight, Terry, but you got to get it handled, man.
You got to do their job.
Yeah, they got to do the job. They got to. Well, anyway, thank you guys again for the third time. We keep going. But we're gonna do this again on the first Sunday, and then join my show, man. If y'all see the show you like, pass it on, share it with anybody, because we're gonna fight to the end till we get what we need. All right, guys. Thank you so much. God bless you.
All right, man. Blessings to you guys, man.
You too.
All right. We get us out of here. All right, there we go.